Joining me now is Republican Governor of Arkansas, Asa Hutchinson. Governor, thank you so much for being with us today. I know you met with Joe Biden on the issue of COVID relief the other day. What did you walk away with? How did you walk away feeling? Are you on board for this relief package?
Well, first of all, it was good to be able to brief the president on how we're doing in the states in terms of vaccine distribution and the steps we're taking to make sure it gets to the rural areas, just like you showed with South Dakota. But we did talk about the relief package, and there's obviously varying needs among the states. In Arkansas, we have a surplus, we have a balanced budget, but we do have needs for assistance in vaccine distribution. Our schools need additional resources, although we are open and have been open in Arkansas, and we are vaccinating our teachers. But we do need to have another relief package. There is an urgency about it. Those things we agree upon. What is in disagreement is the amount of that. I believe the president needs to work in a bipartisan way to bring on Republican support. We need to be willing to compromise that amount down because that's too high. It's going to have to be paid for by our children and grandchildren. And so the key is to get it out, to get it done for the key areas, which is small business support, the states in terms of their cost of administering the vaccination program, our schools. Those are the top needs, as well as some level of stimulus support for our citizens. And you can do that for a varied amount of money. And the key is let's bring on to show that we can do this in a bipartisan way. It is needed. It will help us boost our economy. But I think this is a time that $1.9 trillion is too high. That should be reduced and compromised.
Are you leaning more towards the $600 billion that Republicans were offering? There is a pretty wide disparity there.
Well, there is, and there's a good middle ground. So I'm not going to specify what the amount is. But, well, you could split the difference there, and that's not a bad start and not a bad place to wind up, and you bring people together. There hopefully will continue negotiation, but it's a mistake for the Biden administration to say we're going to do this only with Democrat votes and not show the bipartisanship, the partnership that is needed. But also, it is important how that money is distributed. And that money should be distributed on a per capita basis, and it should not be based upon simply what the unemployment rates are in the state. That is the only fair and equitable way to do it. And I think there's a conversation going on about that as well.
In looking at what's going on around the country, though, I mean, your state has a budget surplus. That is great. Other states were more heavily affected by this pandemic through a loss of tourism, a loss of tax revenue, et cetera. It just didn't evenly hit each individual state. 70% of the public is on board for $1.9 trillion. You heard their Republican counterpart, Governor of West Virginia, saying you can't go too big. We need this money. The Republican mayor of Oklahoma City saying you can't go too big. We need this money. There are other examples of Republicans across the country in leadership positions who are not in Congress saying the same. So I wonder if when you say it's a mistake, who is it a mistake by? Is it a mistake by the elected leaders who aren't listening to the 70% of the country that need it, or aren't listening to the states that say they really need it? Or is it a mistake to ignore it? Or is it a mistake to just not ignore them and go ahead with what you're saying?
$1.9 trillion is not a magical figure. You could come up with $1.7 trillion or $1.5 trillion, and the people of America would support that because they know that a certain level of money is needed to get out into our economy. Whenever my good friend, the governor of West Virginia, said we ought to go big, he also said, so what if we waste some money? Well, I don't think that is the right approach. I think let's go common sense rather than just say let's go big. And because there are varying needs that are out there, we can meet those needs with a smaller amount that does not waste the money that you're going to see wasted if you just simply throw money at the issue.
Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. Glad to know that you're vaccinating teachers as rapidly as you are.